Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We really need to talk. Why do we need to talk? Because what's happened with AMC recently, let's be honest, it's bloody, it's scary, it's rough, it's brutal, it's brutality on Wall Street at its finest. For no obvious reason. There's no rhyme or reason to what's happening with AMC stock. But we have a little bit of clarity, and I want to put things into perspective, at least the way that I am looking at this. This is not financial advice. Do whatever you want to do with your money. That's why I don't understand when people are bearish down below in the comment section. If you don't want to be a part of it, don't be a part of it. It's as simple as that. And I actually encourage that. Why? Because the more bearishness you have on AMC, the more of that psychological revenge trading that you tend to see in AMC as well. People that sold out of AMC with losses 2 years ago, well, they're the ones that see the stock rally and jump back into it because they want to reclaim a phantom loss that they had. Not even a phantom loss, maybe it was a real loss 2 years ago. The more bearish you get, the more suppressed AMC stock gets, the more likely you are for massive volatility and for upside moves. The biggest short squeezes in history have all happened when stocks were at excessively oversold levels or excessively pessimistic levels. Meaning that most short squeezes don't happen when everyone's excited. They can, and they've happened before when people are excited and the stock's been doing well. But usually, right before a big upside event, everyone is negative. Just look back at history. Look at any major short squeeze stock. It happened right after everyone was negative. So I think recently, a couple things have been happening. As I've talked about many times here on the channel, there has been a shorting attack. There has been the biggest shorting attack you will probably ever see on Wall Street has just happened with AMC stock. And I think the short interest on AMC is about to reflect that. And I think you're about to see a massive short interest number. Now, who really cares? Let's be honest. The short interest number that we've had has been plenty to give us a colossal short squeeze. But now, it's going to be even worse. I do not believe, based off of what I have heard, a lot of retail investors sold out of their positions. I just don't believe that. Even though a lot of other so-called creators that have not been a part of this every single day like we have told you to get out to sell your positions. Number one, if anyone tells you what to do, they should not be, because that's not allowed, right? You're not allowed to give personalized financial advice. And at this point, I think that is very flawed. For anyone that really understands the markets, again, you want to be bullish when everyone is bearish. I believe Warren Buffett said this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe someone else said this. I tried to look this quote up before from Warren Buffett, and I couldn't find it. But this is a pretty famous Wall Street quote, which is strange. I couldn't find it when I tried to look for it. It goes along these lines. The stock market is the only sale in town that nobody shows up for. And that's exactly it right now. Now, you can make the argument if AMC is overvalued, undervalued, doesn't even matter. At the relative value that we have been at compared to what has actually happened with AMC, well, the stock is substantially oversold. Not just on the RSI, which is literally oversold at 23.63. Anything under 30 is oversold. But relative to where you have been over the last 2 years or so, and comparing that to the news and really what's happened with AMC, it's unjustified. So we know a shorting attack has happened. But number two, the markets have already priced in a fair amount of dilution. So I akin this kind of to bankruptcy kind of trades, right? When you get to that lowest point, that just rock bottom, right? If you guys have ever hit rock bottom, well, you don't know you're at rock bottom because things can always get worse, right? That's what it seems like. But at some point, you hit that rock bottom, you're at your lowest, stocks are at their lowest, they've hit the rock bottom, they're going bankrupt. What happens? People start to buy up the stock. Okay? I kind of akin this to that. Even though AMC is not going bankrupt, it's in a whole different category as bankrupt companies. You're basically at your rock bottom right now for AMC stock. On a pre-split adjusted price, what this pricing would equate to, even what we've seen in the beginning of this week or last week, would be about $1.24. AMC stock was $4 or $5 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. You are at your rock bottom, okay? And that has been a lot of shorting activity. That's what has been happening with AMC. So when you're at these depressed levels, there can be a lot of opportunity to make a lot of money on that upside. Especially what's the number one thing that everyone said for the last 2 years in this trade? Shorts have to cover. It's as simple as that. They have to cover. Now, to my prior point, you're at rock bottom. You've seen, I don't want to say as bad as it's going to get, because things can always get worse. But you're at such a depressed level that you've already priced in a lot of dilution. So kind of like that bankruptcy moment where a bankrupt stock will sell off heading into that bankruptcy announcement, and maybe even after that bankruptcy announcement a little bit, and then the stock starts to rally. That's kind of what we're seeing right now, in my opinion, with the dilution with AMC. Even if AMC does dilute shares, the stock might actually bounce off of that. The stock might actually rally aggressively off of news of dilution, because you've already priced in a lot of dilution based on what we're actually seeing with AMC's share price recently. And that has been dropping the last 4 trading days in a row, 5 trading days in a row now. Two days you dropped about 13% both days. And then the other 3 days you dropped 25 or 26% one day, 24% the other day, 18% the other day. It's been straight down. Okay, so even that news, that dilution news, might actually be very bullish for AMC's share price. And that is something that I would not take off the table here. Even bad news can be good news when you're at rock bottom, if it's not the worst possible news. And AMC is obviously not going bankrupt, so there is a bottom, there is some form of floor to this. And I think that's important to point out. And I think the pendulum of being super bullish over here, being super bearish over here, and being in the middle, AMC stock is below that super pessimistic level, or like right at the bottom, like on on your car, like dash, right? Your speed, your speedometer, AMC is at 0. If you think like your max speed is like 140 or 160 or 180, would be like super bullish, you're at 0 right now. There is like no bullishness out there, not even from retail investors. And AMC has this unquantifiable kind of buying force behind it, where no matter what, people that have had losses 2 years ago still want to trade this stock because they know how aggressive it can actually move. And when you actually do start to get signs of a big rally, I think a lot of people are going to jump back in. Now, what's different now about AMC that I think you should also pay attention to is the outstanding float. Now, this can obviously change if AMC dilutes us, right? But keep that in mind. The float of AMC, right around about 50 million, give or take, depending on how these numbers actually play out. It might be closer to like 59 million. I believe that's what it is after the settlement from APE, the settlement from the courts that AMC has to pay out. Sure, okay. The float being this small allows AMC stock to move a lot more, to get bigger moves with less actual money. So back, the last rallies that we've seen, put those numbers into kind of the stock price now and the float now, and the stock could move a lot more based off of the same dollar amount, because there's less shares out there, there's less of a pool of shares out there. I think that is also very important to keep in mind. Now, we're not going to have the actual short interest data for probably the next couple of days. I would be surprised if this is actually updated by Monday, but that is certainly a possibility as well. If we look at Ortex, you got a short score of 89, 197.6 million shares that are currently sold short. Estimated short interest of free float at 26.63%, free float out on loan at 11.38%. Just right there, it doesn't make any sense, right? Free float out on loan at 11.38%, short interest at 26.63%. That's not true, okay? And Ortex is estimating like a 10% short interest, which that's obviously not true. I imagine the short interest on the low end is going to be around 35%. On the higher end could be over 40%, closer to about 45%. If you factor in the options and some of those big bearish positions we had on the option chain and what we can even expect for next week's option expiration and the following weeks, the short interest is actually a lot higher as well if you include a lot of those synthetic positions also. Now, the shares out on loan sits at 16.89 million. Again, that is not true. Days to cover 3.89. Again, that is not true. 3-month cost to borrow fees, this does look accurate because it really hasn't changed from the last reading that we got of 391.78%, and utilization sitting at 22.26%. That is obviously not true as well. And when you take a look at the live short interest numbers, it looks even worse. 10.6% short interest off your float, 15.74 million shares that are currently sold short. The only thing that really looks accurate right now is the cost to borrow fees. Around 740% on Interactive Brokers. That looks reasonable to me. Earlier in the trading day on Friday, you had about 1,000% cost to borrow fees, and cost to borrow max over here on Ortex is about 956.5%. So the only thing that actually looks accurate right now is the costs to borrow numbers. The other data is just going to take some time to actually catch up to what's happened with the split and all of that. Now, if you take a look at the FTD numbers, you're still, I mean, even by September 4th, the day before my sister's birthday, you're going to be at 7.7 million FTDs. I mean, the next week, you're going to be at 12 million FTDs to start off the week. Very high numbers. AMC Stock is still on the threshold securities list, and these still need to be bought back, as well as these shorts need to cover on their short positions. Short sellers, a lot of them that really caused the short interest to jump from about 20% to as high as about 30%, was a part of this trade for the arbitrage trade. So in theory, anytime now, some shorts should be taking that opportunity to close out of their short positions. Is that going to happen? Well, probably not. Some might, but a lot of them are really in this for an egotistical battle and want to push AMC stock down as low as they possibly can. So that's another kind of positive for you. Positive currently for the hedge funds and institutions, but will turn into a big negative when that time does come about. So this is some of your most relevant data. The option chain as well over on Stonko Tracker has not updated also. I do personally want to go out and buy some calls on AMC. That looks like the best move for my overall position. If you guys want to come trade with me, come see some of the trades that I'm making on AMC or any other stock, option, and or crypto, link down below in the description of this video. But let's bottom line this. Number one, way too pessimistic on AMC. Just the general investing community. Way too pessimistic. Just look at the comment section of any video. Way too pessimistic. Number two, nothing has actually happened. So you've seen a little dilution from the actual conversion of APE and AMC, but you really haven't seen actual dilution yet. There's been no selling of stock from AMC yet. Maybe that could have happened over the last day or so. We did drop 13.5% on Friday. It's possible, but it's unlikely that AMC really wants to nuke the stock as soon as they get the first possible chance to do so, considering they were profitable last quarter. If AMC was losing hundreds of millions of dollars and running out of capital as we speak, that's a different story. If you're doing this to fight to survive, this is not that situation. So that's number two. Number three, most short squeezes, about 90% of short squeezes, historically speaking, happen when stocks are very, one, oversold, but also when investors are looking at them very pessimistically, right? Volkswagen, look at that. 08 was not a great time. October of 08 was not a great time for autos. What happened? The stock squeeze. Back in January, the first time around with AMC, GME. Those were not great times for their business. And other times in history, like Overstock, was not doing well back in the day when they went through a short squeeze. There's many other examples. These are just some of the most popular ones that you all know about. So that's number 3. And I think those are the 3 things that you really need to keep in mind. Number 4 is more so my personal opinion. Those are more so based off of facts, more or less. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. Come to your own conclusions, all of that. But number 4 is my opinion that the markets have already priced in a lot of dilution with AMC. It's that analogy, again, of hitting rock bottom and what happens with a lot of bankruptcy companies over the last 2 years. When a company is about to announce bankruptcy, the stock can plunge. The stock cannot do well. And then what happens? This company announces bankruptcy. Look at WeWork recently. Look at, some of your other stocks that have almost filed for bankruptcy or filed for bankruptcy. Investors start to look at that as like, hey, this is the lowest point possible. We should buy the stock. For whatever reason that is, I don't think that's a good investment strategy, and I don't think AMC is going bankrupt. Don't take that as your red line here and hit the comment section off of that. But it's kind of that logic of when you're at your rock bottom, even if you get bad news like dilution, a lot of maybe more bad news, I should say, is already priced into AMC than what we're already going to get. Okay. Maybe the markets are expecting 50% dilution, and we get 5% dilution. Look how positive that would be. That's based on kind of what's happened with AMC's share price the last couple of days. You're pricing in a lot of dilution. If we don't get that, that's pretty dang positive. So that is number 4. And those are the things I think you really need to pay attention to. Number 5, I would just say to round this off on just a one hand, is the float is smaller. You have more... How do I explain this? The same amount of money heading into AMC now than what we've seen in the past 2 years is going to move the stock around a lot more. That makes for the opportunity to actually make a lot of money a lot higher. Shorts need to cover on short positions. We have massive FTD positions. The option activity starting to look a little bit more positive. Believe that or not. Let's take a look at the final numbers that we've seen actually play out today. It says no data available, but go look at the last video. The positive order value was like 60-some%. We've seen 3%, 1%, 0% positive order values every single day, rarely exceeding 4 or 5% positive. And today we're finally positive by over 50%. Yeah, that is at least telling you something at the very least, guys. So that is going to do it for this video. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. I will not give up on you until this thing is totally and utterly done. I will see you in the next one.